All right, we are returning to the speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1992, very shortly before he had a stroke that rendered him unable to speak. And this is talking about this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is called Tisa, and it contains in it the shameful story of, excuse me, what's up? Drop something here. The shameful story of the Jews worshiping the golden calf. And the Rebbe points out that even though this is the low point of Judaism, it's preceded by the high point of Judaism, just a few sentences before, that the Jews received the Torah, and it explains in great detail about how beautiful and wonderful and miraculous and precious the first tablets were. They were made by God. The writing was by God. So we have the highest point, and all of a sudden they come tumbling down to the lowest point. And then after that, Moses goes up on Mount Sinai, whatever, and he requests from God, please forgive the Jews, and God forgives the Jews. Oh, that's high point. And then God gives Moses the second tablets, which are not as good as the first ones, reminding us all the time of the breaking. That's low. Look at the second tablets. This is nothing like the first ones. The first ones were so great. The second ones were reminding us all the time of our sin. That's a low thing. Then afterwards, at the end, it says that Moses' face was shining. Karan or Panav. It says that the skin of his face was shining. Right? At the very high thing. So we're going high and then low, and then higher and then low, and then higher and low. God, the first tablets, and then the sin, and then God forgives them, and then the second tablets, which aren't so good, and then the end ends up that Moses' face is shining. And not only that, the Rebbe said, this whole thing seems to be a little bit sort of not in the proper order of things. Last week, we talked about the building of the tabernacle and the garments of the Kohen. And this week, we're talking about the breaking of the vessels. The breaking of the vessels, that was before. The breaking of the tablets. The breaking of the tablets, that was before God commanded Moses to build the tabernacle. The tabernacle that was built after the Jews received the second tablets. And this whole thing of being broken, that's the first tablets. Huh? That was like the 2.5 months beforehand. So why put it in an opposite order? Similarly, it's in this week's Torah portion, right before it talks about the breaking of the tablets, it talks about how wonderful those tablets were, how they were the work of God in the hand, even the printing, the writing on it, where it was carved out, God himself carved it out, how great they were. Why tell us about that now? Tell us about that before, when God was giving the Torah, when God was giving the tablets. And it says in Parshas Mishpatim, it was there. Right? Talk about it then. Why are you talking about it now? Why is this? Everything seems to be jumbled around in the wrong order, and there's good and there's bad, and the highest and the lowest. It's all together in one Torah portion. Why? So the Rebbe said, it's all exactly where it's supposed to be. And there's an amazing, deep lesson to be learned from all of these details that can't be learned in any other way. If you look at the world the way it is, then everything should be in a proper order, and all the questions are in place, and there's a big mistake over here, and that there's not. But then you would never learn this lesson. You would never learn a lesson. Only by putting things in this strange order, where the highest and the lowest and the previous comes, and the early comes after the late, and everything is not. Only by means of that can we learn an amazing lesson that's being contained. And we don't know what the lesson is now, but we're going to see. Habir Rebbe calls the explanation about this is like this. Now, again, we have to remember another thing just before we start, and that is that every word and every letter and every word and every sentence, every paragraph, every idea of the Torah was written by God. It was written by God. God is not just a big being. It's not just the prime mover or another one of the characters of the Bible, even though he's also that. No doubt about it. God is certainly all those things. He certainly is. God did speak to Abraham. He did speak to Adam. He did talk to them, which implies that God is a person or something like that. So, but the fact is, he did speak to how it happened. I don't know, but it happened. God spoke. That's what the whole Torah is. But also, God is infinitely above that. Infinitely above that. God is above all of the worlds and all the spiritual worlds and all of this and that. And we're saying that no, precisely in that God spoke in the world. That's the highest aspect of God. It's above being infinite and being spiritual. Okay, but however it is, the essence of God is revealed in every word, idea, sentence, letter of the Torah. Moses did not write it. Moses was he was the secretary. He transcribed it. God told him exactly what to write. And the Ten Commandments, that was God Himself wrote. So if so, every single word is important. Now, this God that we're talking about, He's creating me and you. So He's a lot more non-biblical than we can possibly imagine. Right? You look, you're standing on the ground, you're sitting on a chair. Your chair is religion. That's part of religion. The air you breathe, the sun in the sky, that's religion. That's what God is doing. That's what God is creating. So if so, everything, and God put us in the world in order to improve everything we see in the creation and making it more meaningful and blessed. And that's what the Torah is here for. Huh? At least that's what we believe. I mean, you don't have to believe it or not, but that's at least the message that we're saying. And in fact, that's the truth. You don't have to believe the truth if you don't want to. You can believe anything you want to, which that's what all the world is doing. And most of the Jews also. But you don't have to. But the truth is that there is a creator, and the creator is creating us. When God gave the Torah in Mount Sinai, nobody had any doubts. Everyone saw the creator. Everyone knew the Torah came from the creator. Everyone knew that every word of the Torah was true. They knew that God is creating them and protecting them and enlivening them and providing for them and took them out of Egypt. They knew everything. And 40 days later, they worshipped a golden calf. How do they do it? Because people are people. You can have as much intellect as you want and much feeling as you want. You have as much proofs as you want. But when something feels good, you go for it. And idolatry feels good. So here we're learning the Torah. That's what it says. The Torah is ideally to teach us that what we feel and what we want is not necessarily good. It could be good. Not everything we feel is bad. You don't have to sit on beds of nails or something like that. It could be, but not necessarily. So you have to look on the Torah and see what is good and what is bad. Okay, so let's go. That's the importance of every word of the Torah. Here we go. The explanation is like this. Back then, first of all, we have to see all of the Parsha, this week's Torah section, Tisa, which is one of the 53 sections of the Torah, right? The readings of the Torah. Every single one has an inyan miuchad b'fnei atzmo. It has something in itself unique. It's divided, mishar, but this week's Torah portion is different from all the others. In fact, each one is different from all the others. Each Torah portion is different from all the others. Kamuvan is understood also from the fact that you read this also once a year, right? So every single Torah portion has a special, unique message that adds something to the whole time, the year. The word for year in Hebrew, by the way, is the same word as change. So all the changes, all the different seasons go through. Similarly, the Parshas Ki Tisa. Together in the fact that Ki Tisa, this week's Torah portion, is one of the Torah portions on its own, but nevertheless, it's a wondrous, amazing Torah portion that has an amazing novelty in it. Even more than all the other. Every single Torah reading, right? There's 53 of them for 53 weeks of the year. Each one of them has a unique message, but this one is more unique than all the others. Why? Because it includes in it all of the whole order of the creation of the world. Seder Hishtal Shalut, the chain of creation of the world. and of time, from beginning to end. It starts off with kefishu katuv, like it's written in the Torah, and what shemimena, that from the Torah is drawn down the whole creations of all these worlds. It's called the chain of creation, the spiritual worlds, one below the other, so to speak, dimensions, infinite numbers of dimensions of creations coming down from above to below. That's called the chain of creation, hishtal shalut. Call the Torah, the whole entire Torah, from the beginning until the end of the Torah. And so, therefore, this Torah portion is everything. Tisa includes in it everything. Beginning of creation, end of creation, beginning of time, end of time, the middle of time, the good, the bad, everything. Oh, it's pretty important. But calling in everything in the Torah, you can find everything in the Torah, you can find everything else. Like the rabbis say, hafach bo kulabo, that in the Torah, everything is there. Almost like a person, right? You pull a person's finger, you pull the whole person. You only are grabbing to the person, to his finger, but that's the Yeshlom. We can say Shekai, that this refers not just to the whole Torah, but it also refers to every detail of the Torah. And as every detail contains all the other details. How much more so one Torah portion, whole Torah portion, for sure, it contains everything else in the Torah. Aval barov inyani makula, that everything is in the Torah is found only in a hint, or maybe there's a metaphor. You have to look and study, which is not the case in this week's Torah portion, Tisa. Right? Every detail of the Torah contains everything else. It contains the whole entire Torah. How much more so one entire Torah reading that we read every Shabbat, each one of those for sure contains the whole Torah. But this week's Torah portion is different, because in all the other Torah readings, it contains the whole Torah, but in a hint, in some sort of a little innuendo, maybe a letter over here hints at this. And like we said, Reb Sadia Gaon, he said that there's 620 letters in the 10 Commandments, and each letter hints at another one of the 620 commandments, 613 of the Torah and 7 of the rabbis. that hints at that. So he could learn from every letter, he could learn a whole entire commandment. But he was a holy person, a tremendous genius, a pure, amazing mind, and he could do that. But nevertheless, it's contained. Says the Rebbe, the fact is that every letter of the Torah contains the whole Torah, but it's all in hints and in metaphors, and which is not the case over here. In Parshas Kita, it's clear. The novelty is that the whole thing is found in a revealed way, in a way that the written Torah is all in this week's Torah portion. How so? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, the Indian is like this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, God established that everything that there is in the world can be divided into 3. Everything there is in the world can be divided into 3 categories: Rosh, Toch, V'Sof. Beginning, middle, and end. Kodem Kol, first of all, Bo Rosh. There comes the beginning of everything. Everything that there is in the world has a beginning. But let's just say in physicality, right? Everything you have, it's measured. It has a start and an end and a middle, right? It has the boundaries. Every definition, a thing that's defined, means that it is this, it's not something else. And then the thing itself, what it is, right? This is a dog. A dog is a type of an animal. That's where it begins, with the animal coming. It is not a stone. It is not that's where it ends. And what are the nature of a dog? A dog barks, and a dog does, and has 4 legs. So everything there is in the world, no matter what, it has a beginning and a middle and an end. Right? It has its boundaries and it has its content, everything. And also similarly, everything is created. Everything that is in the world had a time when it didn't exist, and there will be a time when it won't exist. Right? That's a beginning and an end. And then it has the middle when it exists. So everything in the world has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Rosh, Toch, V'Sof. Kodem Kol, first of all, comes the beginning of everything. The everything that's world, we're the world. And then first of all, there's the beginning. The beginning usually contains inside of it the purpose of everything, the start. Right? Why does the thing begin? It begins because it wants to continue. What does it want to continue? What? If it wants to continue the rest of it. So the beginning, that's the start. The rest of it, that's the middle. And the finality of it, when it gets its job done, that's the end. So there's the beginning. The beginning, it contains in it the seed of why the thing began, why it started. Afterwards, Bo Davar Atzmo comes the thing itself. Hatoch, the middle and the content. Shal Yudo, by means of this, there is the Tachlit V'Sov, there comes to the goal and the completion and the sum total of that idea or that topic or whatever it is. Kasher Neshama Tachlit, when there's the purpose of it that rose up in thought first. Right? So you have that you want to build a house. You want to build a house, that's the beginning. You wanted to build a house. That's the beginning. What's the end? The end is when the house is finally finished. What's the middle? Is all the details that you put into it. That's one way of looking. Okay, here the same thing is also with the world. The world can be divided into three. The Torah is the foundation. Like the rabbi said that the Torah is called the Reshit Darko. It's called the beginning because it's before the world. The Torah is before the world. The Torah is the plan of the world. And the Torah is a Tachlit Kavana B'Kol Inyanim. And the Torah is that began everything. Why did God make the world? There's a purpose. So that purpose, that's the beginning. That's the Bereshit Bishvil, the Torah, that the world was created for the sake of the Torah. The Torah is called beginning. So the Torah, that's the beginning. We said there's the beginning and the middle and the end. The Torah is the beginning. Briat Olam, the creation of the actual world, and the service of the Jewish people and the whole world, working in the world in order to do what God wants. That's the middle. And the end of the whole business is going to be the Geula. The goal of everything is the Geula Amitit V'Shlema, the Mashiach. And there's the purpose of Judaism is to bring Mashiach. The purpose of the Torah is to bring Mashiach. The purpose of creation is to bring Mashiach. That's the goal. Kishetit Malay, Atachlit, then there will be completed the ultimate completion of the creation of the world. Therefore, the world was created from the beginning to bring Mashiach. Okay, so again, everything has a beginning, middle, and end. And we're going to see how this is expressed in this week's Torah portion. Yeshlom, what we can say, the Gimel and Yemila, these three things can also be found in the first three letters of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, Beis, Gimel. Call the Torah, that's the beginning, we said, that is the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments, that comes from the main of the Ten Commandments is the first one, Aleph. And the beginning of Aleph, the beginning, the beginning of the world is the Torah. The Torah, the essence of the Torah is the Ten Commandments. The beginning of the Ten Commandments is the word Anochi. That's the first word. The beginning of the Anochi is the Aleph. So the Aleph, that's really the beginning of the Torah. That includes in it the letter Aleph. That's the beginning. Then there is number two, that's Aleph. Then there's Beit, that's the beginning, that's the creation of the world. Briat Olam. Bereshit Bora Elokim at the Shemayim at the Oretz. God created the heavens and the earth. That's step number two. That's the middle. That begins with the letter Beit. Right? So the Torah begins with the letter Aleph. That's the Torah. When God gave the Torah, that was the Ten Commandments. That's when the world, though, begins with the letter Beit. Because the letter Beit, it says the world was created. Well, come over, like it's explained in the rabbis, what the rabbis say, that the beginning, that's the, that's the Beit. Like the rabbis say, and like the rabbis, what the rabbis say, that the world was created with the letter Beit. Why was it Beit? It says because there was three ends, three sides, and he left the fourth side open so that we'll finish it. We'll close it. And so that's the Aleph is the Torah. Anochi. That's before the world. Base is Bereshit. That's the creation of the world. And Gimel, that's the Geula. That's the redemption. That's the goal. But in more detail, these three things are in the order of the creation of the worlds themselves. First of all, Aleph, it rose up in God's will that he wanted to create the world. Aleph, God's will. Beit, Bria, that God actually created the world. And Gimel, the completion of the creation, that's going to be the Geula Atida, the future redemption. Aleph, Beis, Gimel. Aleph is God, Beis is the world, and Gimel is the Geula, when God will be revealed in the world. By means of our work, to draw down, reveal godliness in the world. Or language of Kabbalah and Chassidut, the same thing. 1, 2, and 3, beginning, middle, and end. What is it? Ours, according to Kabbalah. Aleph, first of all, there's Aleph, or Ein Sof, the infinite light of God, which fills all being. Or Ein Sof, before anything was created, before there was time, before there was beginning, before there was existence, there was the Creator. Beit, afterward, God contracted, so to speak, his light, and he limited his revelation so that there would be what's called an empty place. And then the intention, why did God do it? In order that he'll be revealing it afterward, that there will be revealed godliness in the world. Ad shebegim legimel. So there's step number 1, that's pure God. Step number 2, there's something seemingly other than God. There's the world. That's what God did by this thing of the contraction. So it seems that there's a separate existence, the world. That's Beit, number 2. And the goal is, number 3, Shlema Tegilah, that they'll be both together, God and the world, but together, not separately. God won't just be the beginning, and then the world is a separate thing. There'll be three things. Shemamshich, that you'll draw within this empty place that it said, the infinite light of God, until the godliness, which is unlimited, before this he contracted and he concealed himself, will be revealed here in this physical world. Unity of these 3 things together. I read someone, one second, I read someone that says that there's thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. That's pretty impressive, huh? I don't remember where I read this. The thesis is the idea. Antithesis, the opposite. In other words, something that seems to be separate from the idea, the other thing. And then synthesis, and then bringing them all together. I think I just threw that in. You can throw it out also. But that's the basic idea. The basic idea is there's the beginning, that's the Torah, or that's God, or that's Ein Sof. There's the middle, that's the creation of the word, Breshit, that's the creation of the world. And then there's the end, is the Geula, revealing godliness in the world. Hey, okay, what does that got to do with our Torah portion? How does our Torah portion demonstrate that? We'll see. We can say that Kivin Shkol and that everything that's in the Torah, everything in the world is revealed. All godliness is revealed through the Torah. Even the creation of the world is for the Torah. The deep Torah of Pinchas is that the Torah is like the blueprints for the worlds. It says that God is stakal b'Torah, right? So God looked in the Torah and he created the world. Therefore, the Torah is divided itself into these 3 things. How? First of all, there's the beginning of the Torah is Breshit. The Breshit, that includes not just the beginning of the creation, but it also, at the Aleph, the Reshit, the beginning of the Torah, namely the Torah which is before the world. Rashi says over there, the first word of the Torah is Breshit. So it says, why does it say Reshit to Reshit? The Torah could have just started said Reshit, doesn't have to with Reshit. Bereshit. Reshit, God created. So it says because there's Beit is 2. There's 2 beginnings. One beginning is the Torah. So that Bereshit, the creation of the world, that also that's the Torah. Okay, so in the Torah, we see that there's this beginning, middle, and end. The first word in the Torah that we see in the Torah, right? When God gave the Torah, there was the Aleph of Anochi. But when he gave the Torah, what do we have? The Torah, open the Torah. What's the first letter there? The first word is the world. Bereshit, God created the world. And this, when it says that God created the world, it's also implied God created the world. There's, first of all, that's the Aleph. That's the beginning of the Torah. That's before the world. That also Bereshit means that it was created for the sake of the Torah, which is like in the letter Beit. Bereshit itself, that the Beit indicates that there's number two to the one. But nevertheless, what word appears in the Torah first? The word Bereshit, that's the beginning of everything. The beginning, Anochi, of the Torah. Beit, there's Bereshit Bora Elokim at the Shemayim V'Toretz. Okay, so we have, first of all, just the word Bereshit. That it says that means Chachma. That Bereshit, that's referring to God, the beginning. Then there is number two, is that the continuation of that sentence. God created the heavens and the earth. Briat Olam, God actually created the heavens and the earth. The Bereshit, that's God. Bora, that He created the heavens and the earth, that's already, God is already expanding, creating the world. And afterwards, there's all of the rest of the Torah portions, and then it's talking about what happens with Adam and with Abraham and with Noah and etc. With Noah, and Abraham. And then all the commandments taking the Jews out of Egypt, that's the rest of the Torah. So that's the Beit. That's the creation of the world and everything that happens in the world. And the third part of the Torah is, the end of the Torah is talking about that God showed Moses until the last day. Last sentence, Ad Yom Acharon. Ad L'Siyam Mamash, the end of all of the miracles and all of the great things that God did to Moses in the eyes of all the Jewish people. That's the end of the Torah. So the beginning of the Torah is the first word, God. Then the middle of the Torah is everything that comes after that first word until the last words. Namely, the whole history of the world, this whole 5,784 years. I hope that there won't be any more. Of this world, until finally comes the end of it. That's the middle, and until comes the end. That's the Geula, by means of the Moshiach. Because it says that God showed Moses everything that's going to be till the Yom Acharon, till the last day. And it says that Moses, he's the first redeemer and he's the last redeemer. Because then there's going to be total revealed godliness in the eyes of all the Jews in this world. Like the days of going out of Egypt, I will show you miracles. And this is also hinted at, Kamarumas, it's also hinted at also in Pirkei Avot, this beginning, middle, and end. Okay, so what did we just finish learning? And there's the beginning of the Torah, Bereshit, the first word. Then there's the middle of the Torah, the whole entire history of the world until, at least in let's take just the 5 books of Moses, the whole entire history until Moses bringing the Jews into Israel. But it says there that God showed Moshe the last days. So all of history until the last days, which is the Geula. So that we see in the Torah also, Bereshit, that's the step number 1. The whole entire rest of the Torah, that's step number 2. And the Geula that God showed Moshe before the Jews went into Egypt, that's step number 3. That's the finality. Excuse me. This is also hinted at in Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot is, it's Mishnah. It's the chapters of the fathers, it's called. Sayings by the rabbis of Judaism, the great rabbis. Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Hillel and Shammai. Pirkei Avot. The beginning of Pirkei Avot is, we can see all these 3 things, the beginning, the middle, and the end. The beginning is Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai. Moses received the Torah from Mount Sinai. This includes the whole entire Torah. Like it says, everything that a pupil and a serious pupil would discover in the Torah, it was all given and from Moses and Mount Sinai. And there's all the Talmud, all these ideas that were brought out. It was all given Moshe Kibel Torah. So when God gave the Torah, that's Aleph. That's the beginning. The Torah. And the first sentence in Pirkei Avot, in the chapters of the fathers, Moshe Kibel Torah Mishnah, that Moses received the Torah Mishnah. The Torah has everything. That's the beginning. Step number 2, that Moses gave the Torah to Yoshua, and he gave it to tell the men of the great assembly, and they said, make a lot of pupils. That's the whole order of how the Torah was given from generation to generation, and how it became revealed in all of its details all the pupils in the doors afterwards. And number 3, the completion of Pirkei Avot, the completion of the chapters of the fathers is God will rule forever and ever. That's the last sentence. Hashem yimloch l'olam va'ed. God will rule forever and ever. The kol of this includes all time until the end of all the generations. That's the true redemption by means of the Mashiach. Then Hashem will be clearly, everyone will see that Hashem is ruling the whole world. Latid lavo, and that's in the future, that all the kingship will be of God. In other words, people only want to do what God wants them to. Shleimus milei hakavana, that will be the completion. Excuse me. Excuse me. Oh, got something in my throat. Of why God gave the Torah in the beginning, so people will know what to do and what the king wants. We can say. So what do we see? We see beginning, middle, and end in all these different ways that the Rebbe brought in the Torah, in the creation of the world, and now in Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot, by the way, we learn, it's a custom, to learn it in all of the days between Passover and Shavuot, the 7 weeks. In the 7 weeks, and each and every week we read a different one of the portions of the chapters of Pirkei Avot. Right, there's 6 chapters of Pirkei Avot, and every week we read a different one. So the final, when we get up to the 7th week, when we complete it, the 6th is already finished. Whoa, excuse me. Anyways, it works it out so that the whole thing is finished. There's a lot of Hasidim that have the custom, and Chabad is also one of them, that we learn until Rosh Hashanah. We will learn until Rosh Hashanah, Pirkei Avot. But Pirkei Avot is very, very important, and it's also for the non-Jews. The non-Jews can also learn Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers. There's a lot of books that are written. There's wonderful advice that's given, and especially advice about the Torah. How precious the Torah is, and the non-Jews have to know also how precious the Torah is, because they have to do their 7 Noahide commandments because that's given in the Torah. So Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers, also has this beginning. God gave the Torah to Moses. It has the middle, that Moses gave the Torah over to all the generations, all the great rabbis afterwards. And finally, in the end, it says that God will rule God will be the king in a revealed way. That's the end of Pirkei Avot. And we can say that this is one of the reasons that the giving of the Torah is connected also to the number 3. Beginning, middle, and end, also the giving of the Torah. Like the rabbis say, and that blessed is God that he gave a triple Torah to a triple nation by means of the third, number 3, on the 3rd day in the 3rd month. The Torah is triple. What does it mean, triple? Torah and Nevi'im and Ketuvim. The Jewish people are triple. They have Kohanim, Levites, and Israel. Number 3 was Moses. He had an older brother and sister, Aaron and Miriam, and he was number 3. And the Torah was given on the 3rd day. What does it mean, the 3rd day? The 3rd day, the Jewish people were told to separate from Mount Sinai for 3 days before the Torah was given. And the Torah was given in the 3rd month, in the month of Sivan, 3 months after they left Egypt. They received the Torah. The month they left Egypt was the 1st month, and they received in the beginning of the 3rd month. And that's Rebbe Nehorai Gaon. He explained also more things that are number 3. Of 3, connected to the Torah. And because the giving of the Torah was filled the purpose of the whole entire order of creation of the world. From Orain Sof to this lower level, the Torah contains in it all of the beginning, middle, and end. Beginning, middle, and end. Therefore, the Torah itself is divided into Aleph, Beit, Gimel, all these number 3s. Okay, how is this relevant to our Torah portion of Tisa? How do we see the beginning, middle, and end here, that it contains everything? That we're going to learn, God willing, tomorrow. And now we're going to learn a Yom Yom.